What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Modern Athlete Podcast. I'm pumped to have Dr. Seth Haselhuhn on the podcast today. He is a mental performance coach. Seth, what's going on, man? Appreciate you
How you doing, bud? Good to see you.
Doing well. So for a lot of our Warfighter team, they have seen you on Train Heroic and things like that. But just go into your background for our audience that may not be familiar with you.
Yeah, so I've been putting together some relatively short videos that have been added into the Warfighter program on Sundays. Recovery Day is kind of like a little mental performance check-in day, if you will. Probably a pretty good way to get introduced to that population, or at least try to contribute something to the Warfighter program. So excited about that for sure. Background is I grew up in eastern Montana, in a town of 1,800 people. Wanted to play professional sports like every good kid when he was little, and everybody told me that I shouldn't. And I got really close, made some bad decisions about a couple knee surgeries in college, really accelerated the college program. My dad was the state director for the NSCA for a long time. Like, he was the only guy around in these little small towns that had any kind of, I guess we'd call it professional knowledge and strength and conditioning. So I kind of grew up in a weight room as a kid. I was just there all the time. And then there's not a whole lot to do in a town of 1,800 people. So like, we lifted a lot of weights, and a couple of us just got into it, And so, did my undergrad in kinesiology because I already knew the answers to all those things. And it was easy, so I could play baseball and be like the pretty stereotypical athlete in a small school doing a kinesiology program because it would just fit everything. And then, like I said, a couple of bad decisions about some knee surgeries turns out to have helped me in the future, but obviously didn't help me at the time. So we got married about that time too, pretty young. My wife was coaching Division I basketball. My goal was to go coach college baseball, needed a master's degree. So we went and knocked out a master's degree again, like rushed through it, did it as fast as possible. And then went off to coach some junior college baseball. I was fortunate enough to coach in the program that I played in. It's junior college baseball. It's not that big of a deal, but we were in the top 25 every year in the country. A couple years we were in the top 10. Got a lot of kids out into the Division I world. Got a lot of kids up into the professional baseball world. And then 2009, budgets crashed. I get fired from all my jobs at the college. Like, I'm sure that you had a similar experience where at some point you were a GA, like doing anything that they would pay you to do to stay around. Like, I was supervising inmates on the,
I was working for protein shakes and free t-shirts. That's what I was working for.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like, I was working with the the maintenance crew at the school in the summers, like supervising inmates to like literally dig ditches and paint parking lots and like whatever we could get paid to do. And it was a great time. I learned a lot. Obviously made a lot of mistakes, as you do when you're getting 23, 4. 2009 budgets crashed. Like I said, finished second for 4 head coaching jobs. And wife was like, hey, look, like, I don't really want to go all over the, travel across the country every year. Well, we try to do this. I want to sit down. I'm like, it's time to have a family. We've been married for 6 years or so. So all roads led back to going back to school to get a PhD. And so I went back, got a PhD, sport pedagogy and character education, right? Which is basically, it's kind of nice because at the PhD level, you can kind of tailor some of these things, at least the program that I was in. And so mine is a third sport psych, a third sport sociology, and a third sport ethics. So working in the special operations community, the sociology and the ethics part has come in pretty valuable. Most of these guys, you work in the same area in special operations and the tactical athlete, which we'll talk about, I hope. They've already demonstrated they have better mental toughness than most people. And do they need some mental skills? Yeah, they do. They definitely need it in more like a very specific context because they're well above the average, right? And so, but the sociology part, the team dynamic, the understanding culture, all that stuff to like, not only for me to get in with those guys, but also for me to relate these guys' work to what they're doing and deal with their leadership and their culture development, all that stuff has come in very valuable. And then the ethics part is also important because there's a moral, ethical, legal component to everything that they do. And man, I've been working in the community for over 10 years now. And I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of dudes about like what happens after the gunfight and how does that affect my life and what all that comes, like there's a lot of stuff that comes with being in a gunfight. And like full disclosure and transparency is always the best policy in my opinion. I'm a regular guy. Like, I'm a failed college baseball coach. Like, I'm not a gunfighter. Never been in the military. Never served. And so the only advantage I really have to help anybody with that is like I've had the opportunity, I guess. I don't even know what the right word for it is, Jimmy, but I've been able to talk to generations of guys that have been in all these different gunfights, and I have a collective experience that I can share with other guys. So like everybody that comes in and like starts talking about that kind of stuff thinks that they're in their own, like they're the only one that's feeling this way. And it's like, no, man, like this is kind of how it seems to go. Anyway, long story of the background, but that's where I'm at. So I've got the strength and conditioning background. Feels like a different lifetime ago. Then I coached a real sport. Wasn't just here to like, we're real athletes. We're not just exercisers, you know? And then now like got just still trying to figure this whole tactical thing out.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And especially for coming from college athletics for me, like we talked about on a couple podcasts where it used to just be lift weights and run. And then the field has kind of changed where it's now more holistic. So talking about sports performance, a lot of people don't know what that means. Like, what is sports performance? And that ties in multiple domains. Obviously, it's the nutrition, it's the physical therapy, it's the athletic training, and the holistic body, the mental performance. So for you, like for strength and conditioning, obviously there's certain metrics based on the individual, the sport, the profession of standards that we talked about. We've pushed out some standards, some strength standards, some conditioning standards, things like that.
Yeah.
Now, from the mental side, what does that look like? Because everybody knows what it takes to be successful as a football player, the physical qualities, but what are some mental qualities to be successful?
That's a good question. That's been an argument for, like I said, over a decade of working with this, is that nobody really knows because there's no metrics for combat. You know what I mean? Because they have to deal with the randomness, they have to deal with chaos, and they have to deal with Murphy, right? And the enemy always gets a vote. It's not like when you and I played high school football and the team captains went out to the middle of the field to shake hands. That tradition started when American football started. And like, I'm going to go out as my team captain. I'm going to meet you with the referees and we're going to decide which rules to play under. Right. And so they obviously have like, there's some rules, like everybody's heard about the Geneva Convention. But as far as like, we're going to get into a gunfight or we're going to go do some sort of military operation, there's not really that many rules, right? Like you can't, you stepped out of bounds, timeout, let's reset this thing. Like it doesn't happen that way. And so from a mental perspective, it gets a little bit fuzzier in some ways, but it gets a lot more concrete in other ways. And so the way that it gets fuzzier is like, if I'm, like when you were working with the different sports in college, you had programs that were specific to that sport, right? Yeah. And so when we don't get to do that in the mental performance side, we would do the same thing with mental performance. If I'm dealing with a baseball player, then we're going to talk about baseball specific mental plans and baseball specific focus plans and baseball specific confidence. And like, we got to have some domain IQ is what I ended up calling it, like sport IQ, right? Because if we're going to maintain our mental edge, then we have to know the tactics of the game, right?
Yeah.
And this is where like I've never really liked the term tactical athlete. Number one, because they're not that athletic. They're super fit and they're super smart and their brains work really, really fast. But like if you throw a ball at them, like most of them are going to drop it. And so from an athletic standpoint, like you know that, right? It's like from a strength and conditioning standpoint, guys are really good at running in straight lines,
Yeah, correct.
right? You put a 100-pound ruck on them and they can move it for a long time. But if you ask them to do like a reverse pivot, it's like middle school, it's like awkward middle school dance all of a sudden, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like we got to learn how to do this again.
Yeah.
And so they're like, I'm not trying to throw any shade at any of them. It's just like that's what the population is. And so from the mental side, like I don't know the domain IQ because I'm not a military expert in anything, but I recognize really early that if I don't understand what their goals are and I don't understand how they're training to achieve their goals, then I can't really help them. So like I've got to know what they're after. The same way that you do, right? Like if you're working with somebody that is going to be like heavy like infantry guy, heavy on the assault side, like he's going to get trained differently than if you're going to do some long range, reconnaissance stuff where they're just going to have to be out alone and afraid on their own for a long time. Like you got to know what their goals are. And so from that side of the house, like the part that's more concrete, it's like we just got to get really good at understanding context. And then once we understand context, then everything else is kind of the same. Like if you, mental toughness is one that usually gets kicked around a lot. Mental toughness essentially boils down to like some really strong self-belief and focus. So like what's important now, rule number 2, what's important now predicts what's important next. And I have to know that to help, like to really get them, to help them relate to how to gain it, how to maintain it, and then how to recover it when it falls apart. But it's a long-winded story because it doesn't get nailed down. It's not like I can't put out mental performance standards. Like you have to have solid goals. Those goals need to be focused on a process. You need to be able to measure that process in some way so you have some sort of performance goal so that you can determine your outcome and you know what your capability is. But these things are really, really hard to measure. It's a little bit easier to measure on the cognitive side because that's more like your, like think about NFL combine, like your 225 bench, your 40, your vertical leap. Some of those cognitive skills are more like that, where it's like you kind of have a certain level of it and we can train it, sharpen it a little bit. The way that I explain it to the guys is always like, if you were going to talk to a guy, like if we're going to talk to Jimmy about, like, I just went out and ran a 5-second 40, Jimmy. I just saw the NFL combine. Those guys were running like 4.2s. Train me to run a 4.2. It's like, dude, you got the wrong parents, bro. We might be able to talk about 4.7. We could probably like 4.8 maybe, but like we're not running a 4.2, bro. Like you just don't have it in you. And that's kind of how this cognitive stuff works. So the cognitive stuff's a little bit easier to measure, but it's also like really hard to like plug it into their system, right? Like, so now we're back to defaulting to like faster is better than slower, more accurate is better than less accurate, but not all the time, right? Sometimes earlier is better than faster. Sometimes patience is better than decisiveness. It's just really hard to say. So like, it's kind of like, what's the old saying? Jack of all trades, a master of none, right? But everybody forgets the second half of that. That is still always better than a master of one. And so that's my approach, at least, is to try to give them what they need, world according to me, in terms of what they want, but I have to understand their context and their goals in order to do that. So that's kind of the nuance of it. And really that's kind of what drove me to the mental performance side, is that, like I said, I grew up in a weight room. I could write you a really, really solid strength and conditioning program as a junior in high school, because we learned everything from Boyd Epley. That was our guy, right? And so like sets of 10, sets of 5, sets of 3, boys, we got a 9-week rotation. Let's get it on. And we got big and we got strong and we got like, power cleans and push jerks. And, we didn't get into the deadlift as much, but, like we were big and strong and we could jump and we could sprint and for the capabilities that we had to bring to the table. And when I went to college and started thinking like, oh man, I'm going to be a strength coach because this is what I know and this is what I'm comfortable with. And then I was always interested in like what makes people tick. Like, why did you do that? Like, why do they do this? Why do they think like this? And then like, what's the difference between like, we can get anybody really fit, right? But like, what's the difference between a guy like Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods and Kobe Bryant and everyone else, right? Like, what makes those guys tick differently? And so I kind of like, frankly, just kind of got bored with the strength and conditioning. And I don't know if it was just because like it got hammered into me so young and I just wasn't that interested. But I also was an athlete and I also like was the kid that everyone told go to school, go to school. Like there's no way you're going to play, professional sport. And man, I got like this close and it was because I made bad decisions, right? And I should have taken a red shirt. Shouldn't have come back from that surgery so fast. I should have done a lot of different things. And so what's the difference between the guy that like me who had potential to play, probably, maybe not Major League Baseball, but certainly could have, spent some time in the minor leagues for sure. What's the difference between me and like a guy like that just rolls out of bed that knows how to do it? And well, it turns out there's not that many guys that just roll out of bed and know how to do it, right? They got it from somewhere. And so I got the opportunity to work in the special operations community. It was like, well, in my naive, college boy, that's what they used to call me when I first got here. What do you think about this, college boy? Is that like that's ultimate competition because your life is on the line. You don't get to make a catastrophic mistake and then like lose the game and play tomorrow because that's how baseball works, right? Baseball's an everyday game. So that part really I was really drawn to it. And so when I think about it, like the tactical athlete part of it, I don't, it needs a human performance component. Defining performance from a mental standpoint has proven to be very difficult for me. I think I have a feeling of it. I don't know that obviously can't articulate it in a sentence because I just talked for probably 20 minutes, it seems like, but it's like you kind of know it when you see it. And it, for me, at least in the, like the warfighter population, military, law enforcement, the SWAT teams that I've worked with, I haven't worked with a lot of firefighters, but I've done some EMS stuff on the mental performance, like kind of stress lab stuff. It's character. Like there's a character, there's a type of person like that has a certain type of character that's not only drawn to this, but like thrives in that environment. And it's a complete different shift in their perspective. And so like, well, I don't want to get too technical with it, but like you've heard of the perception, like the phrase perception is reality. Cool. But like perspective determines perception, right? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so these guys look at things completely differently and they have a different character about them. And it's not necessarily like Wally Cleaver, like the nicest guys in the world, you know, but they're salty and they're mean and they're angry and they're rough around the edges and not very polished and they look super intimidating and all that stuff. But like once you kind of get through that crusty core, like they really do not like to see people get taken advantage of. And it like really makes them tick. And so like, all right, cool. Now, how can we channel that energy into like achieving a goal? Because they don't really have any goals either. I mean, they play literally a zero sum game, and there's no really way to tell like who's better at it. So, I mean, that's a long-winded version, but when we get into dealing with guys and trying to help their mental performance, like we have to essentially just clarify their goals. And once we can clarify their goals, then now it's no different than strength and conditioning, right? It's like how many guys have come into you and said, "This is my goal," and it's like, "Man, you're wrong."
Yeah.
Like this isn't like, okay, got it, but like this is not what you need. This is what you need. And then you have to like walk them through that process and then get their buy-in again before they'll listen to you. Otherwise you're just a guy chirping at them.
Yeah. And for me, obviously it's easy because I've been doing this 20 years. So from a strength and conditioning perspective, what I always found was interesting is like, especially I'd be curious your thoughts on the mental side. So I imagine mental performance is similar to physical performance from a standpoint. If you're not training the qualities, they will diminish. It's just like strength. If you don't touch a barbell for 12 weeks, you're going to get weaker. Just because you squatted 500 pounds 10 years ago doesn't mean you're going to squat 500 pounds now, because you still need to train those qualities. Now, on the mental performance side, you could have been mentally resilient maybe 10 years ago, but because of life and just you got in a bad spot and your mindset has kind of shifted. How do you train those qualities to get back, or you're trying to take yourself to the next level? Like, how would you even go about that? Because yeah, I'll leave it at that.
All right. So yes, the difference between everything that you said, I agree with 100%. If it's the old use it or lose it principle of strength training,
Yeah.
right? And so the thing about the mental side of it is that you always use it because you're always thinking about something. And you said it already, is like, used to be really resilient 10 years ago, but now I just don't, like I lost it, right? You didn't lose it, you trained it. And so like, it's really important to think on purpose or have a plan to think on purpose, because the way that our squishy little brains work is that because they're always running, the brain is just an organ like a heart or a liver or whatever, and it functions mechanically with electrical stimulus that produces chemical reactions, and that's the process of signals getting passed through the neurons and blah 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 blah. The brain itself doesn't care, it doesn't have a meter that says, oh, we shouldn't think like this or we should think like this. It just gets really good at what you think the most, right? An average person is like 800, 900 words a minute thinking. You get some really smart people like we have in the special operations community, roughly 12 to 1500 words a minute. That's a lot of reps, right? It's a lot of reps. And then you think of it like in terms of, if you break down IQs into like performance IQ versus verbal IQ, when you're talking about performance IQ, like those guys are thinking in pictures and concepts and like categories really, really fast. And so we get a lot of reps in a hurry. So we're going to maintain that over time so that we don't lose whatever edge that we're building, we have to have a really solid foundation of how we want to think. And that's one of our goals is like, we're going to think effectively, just the same way that you would think of it as like, if we break down strength and conditioning into intensity, duration, and frequency, which one's most important?
Yeah.
Frequency, right? So like frequency always wins. And so if we're going to maintain that edge or build that edge or regain that edge, we have to have a plan to think as constructively as possible, as frequently as possible, because when we have a moment, when we have time, like if we're thinking performance on demand, if we have time to recognize the situation and plug in the tactics, for lack of a better word, the plan, the strategy, what we need to do to solve the problem, then okay, yeah, we can get a lot of reps at that. That's more of like in season, we're ready to go. Like we don't have to build anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if we're going to do this over the longevity side of this thing, then we got to have a plan to think it as constructively as possible, as frequently as possible, because the brain doesn't care, but it does get really, really good at what you think about the most. And so it's like the beauty of negative thinking is that it's almost 100% accurate. If you think negatively, you're going to get negative consequences. So intuitively, that means that positive thinking is better than negative thinking. But man, like if you're down going through life, like you were talking about, and like you're starting to lose your edge or you're really frustrated about something, and I'm like, hey, Jimmy, just think positively about it. You're probably going to punch me in the face.
Yeah.
Right. Cause it's like, like
Get it.
positively, I'm going to kick your ass. Right. So like, we like to think of it as like, be as neutral as possible. Like these things aren't good. Whatever it is that we're encountering right now or we're dealing with, they're not good or they're not bad. They just are what they are because it's the only thing they can be. And that value neutral perspective takes a little bit of the anxiety away from it, but also opens up our like critical thinking to be like, all right, like if this was just a problem, what's the simplest solution? Then we start with the simplest solution and work to a more complex solution. But it kind of puts us back on the county fair roller coaster instead of trying to ride the Six Flags roller coaster. The thing about the Six Flags roller coaster is it's a lot more exciting, but it goes down in a hurry and you don't want to get stuck down there. You need enough momentum to get back up. If you don't have that momentum to get back up, it's because you don't have a good foundation of like thinking constructively on a frequent basis.
And I feel like, again, we've talked about how the mental side and the physical side tie in, and this is just my personal experience, but I feel like if you're training for something, if you sign up for anything like a marathon, a powerlifting meet, whatever it is, and you're in a rut mentally, I feel like that can help put you on the right track, because then now you have a goal, you have a focus, whereas maybe your job doesn't require that. You've already have all the qualities to do your job, motivating you to really raise your levels, especially if you're in a tough spot. Whereas if you sign up for something or you just have a physical goal, it can then help your mental side. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
It is an effective strategy for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people that I went through the same thing. You know, I went from like the cusp of playing professional sport to like standing up for the first time 9 weeks later. You know, went from 8% body fat to like 32% body fat in 9 weeks, just alcoholic depression, right? Laying flat on my back for 9 weeks. It's like, like I said, grew up in the weight room and really liked it because I was really good at it. And now all of a sudden I'm really bad at it and it's really hard work. And like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't have any more pitches to hit over the fence. I don't have anybody else to chase down and tackle. I want to do all this work just so that I can like look good in a t-shirt. Like, what are we talking about? This doesn't make any sense anymore. And so that's a really effective strategy for a lot of people is like, all right, let's sign up for something that whether like you said, marathon, there's a weird little circuit in the world that runs run and guns. That's like a 5 and 10K option, and you're carrying a rifle and a pistol, and you just run and you stop and shoot like a shooting stage every so often. Usually, like on a 10K, you'll shoot 8 different stages, so you're never moving really more than like a click or so at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But like you're carrying everything with you, and like there's people that sign up for that because that's just the way they maintain their fitness.
Yeah.
Because it's something that they enjoy. They like being outside. They like shooting. They like the kind of people that like to do those kind of things, right? And the like-mindedness of it is really kind of, I think, the key factor there. is that like when you find your people, so to speak, like that's a huge draw. The kind of the shallow end of that pool is, well, I'm going to sign up for a half marathon every year just to force myself to run on my weekly program because I don't want to go to this half marathon and I'm not even like interested in winning the thing. I just need to complete it. Right. So like that's an effective way to maintain your fitness and, do some like extrinsic motivation, but it's better than sitting on the couch. I think that really the activity is about, and maintaining it long term is about finding an activity that you can do with people that you like to be around, or an activity that you like to be around, and like those people will gravitate towards those things. And like unfortunately, I don't think a lot of us have a lot of time for hobbies anymore,
Mhm.
right? Like what's the like when I don't know, we're about the same age. When I was a kid, like all the old men used to like the golf. I really never like that's what they did. That was their hobby, or they went to the bowling league, or they had the darts league, or whatever. And obviously, none of those things are terribly fitness related, but they're like-minded people, and it just maintains a quality of life,
Correct.
right? And so I think like from a training standpoint, if we're trying to improve our fitness and improve just our overall well-being, talking about like human performance, then yeah, man, like if you need to sign up to do this thing, like the triathlon or whatever it is, just so that that'll motivate you to get off the couch and do something on a daily or weekly basis, great. Start it. If you hate it, then find something that you like, that makes you move, and you'll find your people. And then once you find your people, now it's like instead of waking up in the morning and dreading like, man, I gotta run. What's today? Oh, I gotta run an 8 miler today because we're getting close and this is gonna suck and I hate it. And it's like, oh, man, I get up and like I'm getting up to do this thing because like I'm gonna get to go see Jimmy at the next running gun, or I'm gonna get to go see Jimmy at the next triathlon, or like, oh man, my people are there, and it's something that I'm looking forward to, and that would be a better option, is to
Yeah.
find that like mindedness part of it. But yeah, man, like if you sign up for something new, maybe that's your thing, or like you're not sure about it, so like you're gonna go explore it. It's effective, like I said, short-term motivation. Most people, like speaking of motivation, does that answer your question?
Yeah, because the way I'm thinking about it is like exactly that. Like, all right, what am I doing this for? Am I just looking? I'm married. I got 2 kids. I'm not trying to impress anybody. Like, what's the point of squatting heavy at this point in my career? What is the point of doing any training, going on this run? And it's like when you sign up for something, it gives you more skin in the game. So if you're a guy that keeps hitting snooze on their alarm, not meal prepping, just kind of waking up with your pants down and just figuring out your day when you wake up in the morning, as opposed to you have something on the calendar, you don't want to show your ass in 6 months. You're more likely to not hit snooze on your alarm. You're more likely to mentally prep for the week, whether that's organizing your training, organizing your meal prep. So things like that, I feel like helps put people on a better path, as opposed to not just training for infinity in life. Because aesthetic goals, yeah, they're cool. If that's your goal out there, that's great. But it's for a lot of people, it's not enough to move the needle to motivate them. So I feel like having that calendar date, it just dials everything in from a physical as well as a mental standpoint.
Yeah, no, and I think what you said in there is really important, is that we're not just waking up trying to figure it out every day. Like having a plan. That's rule number 5, is don't be an idiot. Like let's have a plan.
Mhm.
And so like having a plan is really important. I think the problem, it's like the why do New Year's resolutions fail? So nobody makes a plan. Everybody has a goal, right? But nobody has a plan. And so the planning part, like we have to get something that's internalized, something that like we want to do, some even if we don't believe we can do it. And that's where you like run into a coach. You need somebody that can help you
Yeah.
either build a plan or maintain a plan, or like have some accountability, like find a buddy, right? Like how many days when you were, I know like it was true for me. Like we had 3 of us in high school that just really got into this whole, like, we're going to be big and strong.
Mhm.
And like every day, squat day comes around, every leg day, it was usually a leg day. One of us just didn't want to do it, right? There was one of us that just didn't want to do it.
Of
But
course.
the other 2 were like super excited. And it wasn't always the same guy, but it was like once you get there and you start getting warmed up and, start hanging out with your buddies, and it was like, all right, let's go. Let's do it. And we always feel better for doing it. Like that's always true. You
100%.
always feel better after it's done.
Yeah, and in college athletics, I would see it all the time. Like I would take like a shit program but high effort and motivation and culture behind a team that just buy into that, and they'll get better results than the best scientifically backed program out there with poor buy-in. I'll take that. I'll take the shittier program, high buy-in, and you get a lot of like-minded people, you're going to get great results versus the most scientifically researched program. And guys are like, I don't buy into this. I'm not doing this. So yeah. So
Yeah, man, I
that's
know, but I would take both of those over just waking up and deciding like today I'm going to do some bicep curls,
exactly 100%.
right?
Yeah.
And so like having that plan is definitely the kicker. And
Yeah.
just like you said, man, it doesn't matter how good your plan is, right? Like never fall in love with your first draft, but if you have a plan, it just takes it off the table, right? Now it's just now then we're getting into like a little bit more of like the domain that we're working in with this with the like warfighter community is where it's like these guys like to make plans and it's important to them, but a lot of them is just like I need to keep my edge because the guy to my left and right is depending on me, and I don't like they have their motivation, and we can get into the motivation versus discipline argument if you want to, but the plan is usually not very good because it's harder is not always better. And so it's not for a lack of motivation, but like just like you said, like I've seen it done a lot of different ways on the strength and conditioning side in the tactical realm, and you're 100% nail on the head, man. Buy-in is the most important thing. Like you get a bunch of like steely-eyed, barrel-chested American freedom fighters, and you don't give them a data that they can do both for the girls and tries for the guys. Like you ain't buying in, man. Like I got to fill this uniform out, dude.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
You gotta put some dessert in there. If you're going to scrap, you have some dessert to
Yeah,
look
for sure.
cool. Yeah.
Like
So
we need a meathead day every once in a while, but like we can't just we did like three deadlifts today and that's it. Well, yeah, because your mitochondria need to be. I don't care about my mitochondria, bro. I would need to fill my shirt out.
exactly. Yeah. No, 100%.
No, but like having that plan is really important.
Yeah, because I do this for a living. If I just walked into my garage with no plan, I would not, it's a waste of time. So for the average person that doesn't have strength and conditioning experience and they're just walking through life with no strength and conditioning plan, I know how hard it is because I do it for a living and I still wouldn't do it. I'm not going to just show, there's no point to it. Like, again, we talked about the difference between training and working out. Training has a purpose, a structure, and a goal versus working out is just the things you feel like doing. Training
Right.
is
Like,
what you need to do. Working out is what you feel like doing.
yeah. And that there's a lot of people in the world where working out is really good.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I think that's why CrossFit's so successful, or at least was, right? Like I wouldn't recommend CrossFit for anybody that's training
Yeah.
for anything because you're going to get, you're just going to get hurt. However, the genius of CrossFit is that it's a community.
Yeah. Correct.
Right? They built a community, they have buy-in. And so it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're like just completely out of shape, you know, obese, whatever. You just want to change. Like CrossFit gym will bring you into the fold.
Yeah.
And they'll help you get better, and like you'll have people. And yeah, are you gonna get hurt eventually? Probably, but like you get hurt doing a lot of things. Like you're already hurting because you're that far out of shape, right?
Yes.
So what's the difference? We'd rather get hurt moving up the hill than sliding down. But that's in my head, like CrossFit is working out. Like I'm gonna get tired every day. I'm gonna look good naked eventually. I'm gonna have really bad shoulders eventually. But like I'm gonna have people, and people's important, especially like this day and age where we're all stuck to screens and we have a hard time communicating, like building relationships. Like I would, like I'm acknowledge that I probably said some bad things about CrossFit right there, but I don't think it's a bad thing for people. I think it's a
Yeah.
great thing for people because it builds community, and community gives us that willingness to like not only make a plan but stick to a plan, you know? And that's a really good thing for people. Like people that do things like sign up for Warfighter, like they're probably beyond CrossFit. They need to train for an objective. They need to train for something that they're going to have to perform. I never imagined in my whole life how hard it would be to define the word performance until I started working with military guys.
Mm-hmm.
And really like the military bureaucracy part of it for the most part. But like I've sat in meetings at very fancy places with high level people and spent hours arguing over the definition of the word performance. because it's easy in sport. Like we measure everything.
Yeah, because
And so,
there's metrics that you know
right.
the out like so.
Yeah. And they don't have them all the time in the military, but they do in CrossFit. Like CrossFit is beautiful in that way because there's a goal. Like we're going to get to where we can do 10 of those crazy pull-ups, or we're going to get to do where we can do one handstand or whatever it is. But like you're moving towards something and you have a community around you and you're getting good at working out. But like the training part of it is I think that separates Warfighter from a lot of the other stuff that I've seen out there is it's a community,
Mhm.
building a community, like-minded people doing like-minded work, and the programming is obviously effective because people are really really happy with it, and like their minds are kind of blown that the programming actually works. And then because they're getting the results in the gym, but they're
Mhm.
seeing those results in the field,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
like that's what training is for me, is like, oh man, like when I first started working with the special operations guys, they're like, what does a power clean have to do with combat? If you, as a strength coach, if you can't answer that question, you don't have the buy-in,
Yep.
right? And so like when you start building the training program, instead of just like I'm gonna get tired every day. All right, cool. The advantage of having a strength coach in a tactical population is like you don't have to just get tired every day. Like we can do this smarter
Mhm.
so that you don't get hurt, because that's the biggest advantage, is the injury rate has just fallen off. Like when I got here, when I started working with the military population in 2014, like, everybody was hurt. It was very
Mhm.
CrossFitty. Like there was a lot of people doing CrossFit. CrossFit was big in the military. There were a lot of different programs out there that the guys were following. Some of them better than others. They're all super fit, right? Like
Mhm.
you'll get super fit doing all of them. They're tired every day. And so like overuse injuries were through the roof because they're going to go do that for their workout. Then they're going to go put their kit and their helmet on and run around all day. And like, when does it stop? And so a little bit of like, let's sprinkle some science on top of this
Mhm.
and like convince you that a deload week works because that's what science says. And now we're like starting to talk about training instead of just working out. Like we're not just going to get tired every day. We're going to do something with purpose. We're going to do it on purpose with a purpose. Then it's like, oh man, like I talked to a guy who was in the unit that I work with for a long time, didn't like me at all when we first met, but we've kind of come full evolution. And I was, kind of griping at him about it because he's retired now. And he was like, "You've got to be kidding me, man. Like that, you guys have changed the world there. Because before you guys got here, like we were all dumb. We didn't know how to do anything. And we were all hurt all the time. And you guys came in and like, yeah, I know we weren't very nice to you, but like you've completely changed that place for the better. And that's hard to see as you're just there every day, right? It's kind of like watching your kid grow up. Like you don't notice that he got 5 inches taller, but when grandma sees him, they're like, oh my goodness, you got so big.
That's a good
It's
point.
kind of that same idea. But the training part of it is definitely better than the working out part of it. And that works for the male side too. And that,
And
like,
it's the buy-in. You obviously have to get the buy-in on the front end. And then once you get the buy-in, then the guys will be more receptive to what you have to say. And your point, like just getting tired and sweaty all the time, that's not a byproduct of a good program. A good program, in my eyes, is something that's reproducible. It's something that you can do playing the long game because again, if your job is physical and you're destroying yourself for your job, that defeats the purpose of the program. The program is meant to not crush you, but allow you to do your job better. And if you're a tactical professional, your body is your job. So it shouldn't be counterproductive. Like, yeah, there's going to be hard days where you're tired and things like that. But again, the famous quote of like the best ability is availability. If your program is crushing you into the ground and you can't do your job, can't be a husband, father, and all those things because you're so destroyed and tired from training, it's not really the program for you. Like maybe it is for the guy who sits at a computer all day. It can be destroyed and just bang away at a keyboard. But if your job is to use your body, that vessel should be supported by a program that allows you to do that job better. So
yep.
that's my advice. So
And that's also true, like again, go back to the human performance thing, is that from the mental perspective, and to an extent the cognitive perspective, but mostly from the mental perspective, those guys are always switched on.
mhm.
People in this community, in this warfighter community, they're always switched on. It's hard Like the equivalent is like, okay, you need to take a deload week. No, I can't take a deload week because I got to stay on my edge. I got to keep my edge. I can't just like sit around. No, this will help your body. This will make your tool more effective. From the mental standpoint, that is also true. And one of the hardest things that you can get guys to like attempt to do is to switch their, I hate this word, but like mindset, right? If we think about what mindset actually means, is like the way that you frame your problems, the way that you decide to look at the things that you're about to encounter. And so you'll hear the expression of like, oh, I got to switch my hat. Like I'm going to go to work, I'm going to put my work hat on, and then I leave work and I put my dad hat on, and then I go, coach the little league baseball team and I put my coach hat on and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But like being able to switch your focus and like understand what your goals are as your day evolves or as your weeks evolve or like whatever cycles you're living in, that mental part is true too, because we need some time to do that. And like one of the reasons that people in this community don't sleep very well is because they can't turn their brain off. And it's because they usually just because they have bad mental habits, or bad is probably the wrong word, untrained mental habits, right? It's like one of my favorite movies is Man on Fire, the
Yep.
Denzel Washington movie, right? A gunshot holds no fear. It's one of my favorite scenes ever. But there's no such thing as tough. That's the line in there. There's no such thing as tough. There's trained and untrained.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that that's completely true because I think that I've met a lot of tough guys. And what I mean by tough guys is like their workout program sucks because they're working out, not
Mm-hmm.
training. Their mental program sucks because they don't really have one, but they're making it, right? They're still successful. And that's tough, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just like I'm just a hard-headed dude that just doesn't quit. And it's like, man, it's amazing and it's awesome. And it's like, I can't even begin. Like, how do I get you to understand how much potential you're leaving on the table just by being tough, right? Like, we have to reconceptualize this a little bit because there's another gear or two in there that if we could just get you to train something instead of just go be tough, that
Mm-hmm.
you are going to be a rock star in all things. And it's not always the way that they think about it, like what it means to be tough. And so just things like that, just trying to find a way, just like you said, like just got to get your foot in the door. And then it's a slow, painful process of like one step forward, half a step back, one step forward, half a step back. But then, like, once you earn the trust, right? Like, in my experience, the community that we're in runs on two currencies, trust and utility. If I can't trust you, I don't want you around. And if you're not adding value, then I don't have time for you. And
Mm-hmm.
so you have to be value added and you have to be trustworthy. And so if you violate either of those, like you're written off forever. And so like from the mental side of that house, like trust means that if somebody asks me a question, especially if we don't know each other right now, like we're just getting to know each other, working together for the first time, like I have to give you an answer that I'm 100% sure will work.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be like the most elementary sports psychology concept on the planet. It doesn't matter. It just has to work.
Mm-hmm.
And then because they're going to go test it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, then they're never coming back.
Yeah.
And so if it works, they're going to come back and sharpshoot me again. And I just have to be right. I just have to be right. I don't have to be a genius. I just have to be right. You know, that I think that I've seen it work the same way in strength and conditioning where it's like, it's been questioned a lot, right? Like, what does all this have to do with combat? It's like, you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be a genius. It don't have to be some sort of like finely articulated philosophical bent. You just have to be right. The answer has to be correct. And then, man, you go through that, 500, 600 cycles of that. And pretty soon they're like, just tell me what to do, bro. You're like, all right, this is what you need to do. And now you can be critical of them. And now you can kind of be hard on them. And now, like you being critical and being hard on them is like them trusting you because you're willing to give them critical feedback. If you start with just critical feedback, it just gets turned off instantaneously. And then now you're value added because you're right. And yeah, man, like we'll drag you all over the country. Like in my experience, I've been all over the country doing all kinds of crazy stuff, things that I would never even imagine would happen before I fell into this world and got to do some really cool stuff. And they've taken me everywhere. And most of the time I feel like I'm not doing anything, but they're like, you're such value added. You're such value added. We got so much better. And it's because I was there all the time. And they could be like, hey, what do you think of this? And I could just be like, yes, no, bad, good. And they're like, all right, roger that. Cool. What do we need to do different? You need to do this or that, one of those two. And like, okay, like I feel like I didn't do anything. They uh, are like value through the roof because the stuff that I'm giving them is working. It's effective. But that's only effective because we know the context. And now we're back like kind of full circle back to like, we got to have a plan for training. But in order to do that with any elite population, like you really have to know the domain IQ part of it. Otherwise, you're going to be wrong a lot.
Yeah.
And if you don't take the time to learn the domain IQ, in my opinion, as a professional in the at least the special operations community, like SWAT team community or whatever, like if you're going to be a human performance professional in that field, and you are not taking any interest in learning the appropriate level of domain IQ for whatever part of it you're in, you're going to fail. 100% you're going to fail. Like I could sit in my office and teach people breathing. That's the HRV breathing test. And I get paid the same amount of money. Nothing in my life would change other than massive drop in work satisfaction. But it's not going to help anybody, right? Like it'll help them. It's a good thing. You should breathe, right? Breathing is an effective tool to manage your stress at some levels. However, if that's all I have to offer, then like I don't get it.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, you touched on it earlier. We didn't get down that rabbit hole yet, but discipline and motivation. One of my favorite strength coaches out there that I grew up on was Jim Wendler. You probably heard of the 5-3-1 program. His thing is he's got even a sweatshirt, t-shirt, discipline on top over motivation. So when you hear discipline and motivation, what are your thoughts from your world?
It drives me crazy.
Okay.
It drives me crazy. Mostly it's just like, yeah, I graduated from college 3 times. I have a PhD in sport, a nerd, right? Like I have a nerd side of me. And that's
Mhm.
the part that drives me crazy because words matter. And I used to argue with Nick Lavery about this all the time because he was the same way. It's like discipline, motivation is stupid. Discipline is what you need. Discipline, discipline, discipline. And I'm like, man, you just don't get it. Discipline is the most important thing. And I'm like, well, from a nerd standpoint, discipline is like the highest form of motivation, right? Because if we break motivation down, there's essentially 3 different levels of motivation. A motivation, which is zero motivation, doesn't happen very often. Then we have extrinsic motivation, right? We're motivated to either gain some reward or avoid some punishment. Like you ever had a job that you just went to because they paid you to do it? Yeah, like you're extrinsically motivated to do that, right? And then there's intrinsic motivation where like you do this because it satisfies your character, right? All right, cool. So why do you not feel like working out some days, but you do it anyway? Because because you have discipline? No, it's because it's really important to you that like the long term is better than the short term. And we used to teach this to kids when they were little, right? Long term gratification, that's called discipline.
Yeah.
Short term gratification is called motivation. And so usually when we study motivation or when we talk about motivation, we're talking about it in a situational aspect. Our kids came into the room right now, we would use different language. We'd be motivated to use different language than we would if it was just me and you, right?
Yeah.
If we were addressing like an NSCA conference as a panel, we would use different language than we would if we were just like hanging out at eating dinner, drinking a couple beers, right? We'd have a different situation. So we're motivated to do different things. All right, cool. But discipline is a isn't just another word for like a well-defined set of intrinsic motivation. Like I don't do those things because that's not who I am. Or I
Mhm.
do these things because that's who I am. Right. And if you think about like discipline has a lot of different meanings. If you're in trouble and I give you a punishment, what am I doing to you? Disciplining you. Right. So if we think about it like what the word means, then yeah, man, like discipline, like you can't have discipline without motivation. Doesn't work that way. So I get it like in popular culture or like in the Instagram world where it's like discipline is better than motivation. Like okay, from a vernacular standpoint, like all right, I get it, but it's just not true. Motivation is what like nobody does. Like why are we up right now doing this thing?
Yeah.
You and I right now. Like, neither
Exactly.
one of us, like, we could probably both think of something that we'd rather be doing right now. You know what I mean? Like, if we get to it, we could, like, there's a lot of things I'd rather be doing than sitting here talking to you right now. Not
For
too
sure.
many, but I could find something, you
Yeah.
know? There's a lot of great things to do in the world, Jimmy, and like talking to each other on the screen is, like,
Exactly.
I love you, but come on. And so
Yeah.
What do we do it for? Like, we're not doing it because it's going to make us feel better right now. We're doing it because, like, long term, these are the kind of things that people like-minded people in this world do.
Yeah.
And so sharing information and just like talking, and doesn't have to be formatted, and doesn't have to be, it's not a 20-second soundbite, and it's nothing like that. But it's like, we can't have discipline without motivation. And motivation is so much more, there's so much more to motivation than just like, I don't feel like it today, right? Like, that's the shallow end of the pool, motivation. Like, I don't feel like it today. Like, okay, cool. But like, how would you, it's the old saying, like, man, 6 months ago, you're going to wish you would have started 6 months ago, right? It's like, okay, but how do you plug that into somebody's head? Well, you discipline them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you did at a strength coach in the college. How many of those athletes wanted to be with you at 6 o'clock in the morning working out?
Zero.
Zero. I know, because I was also an athlete that was up at 6 o'clock in the morning running stairs in an empty gym until somebody barfed, because that's what the coach's idea of training was that day.
And I guess there's short-term motivation, like going on Instagram, seeing a motivational quote, versus long-term motivation of, in the college world, it's winning a national championship or whatever
Right.
that grandiose thing. But
I
it's
know you're
like, I
getting
feel like
there.
short-term motivation versus playing the long game of, hey, by me showing up at 6 in the morning, I'm not motivated by a motivational quote. I'm motivated by something 6 months from now that I can hang my hat on.
Yeah.
That's
So
how I.
like, this is how I look at it. The motivational quote is your inspiration, not your motivation. Like, I'm inspired by the motivational quote, right? Or I'm inspired because I don't, like, my two buddies that I went to high school with, like, I'm not motivated to squat today, but they inspired me to do it,
Mhm.
right? But I am motivated to be the strongest dude on the football field, and that's why we do it, right? That's the discipline part of it. And so, like, I'm motivated to do that. That's something that I really want, but I think it's pretty easy to understand the idea that, like, it's really hard sitting here right now to think about doing whatever it is we're training for 6 months down the road. It's easier for us to be like, I'd rather just sit on the couch or sleep in or hit the snooze button or do whatever, right? Because I don't have the inspiration right now. But I do have the motivation to win the race or win the competition or set the state record in the deadlift or whatever it is, right? And now we're back to goals, and goals is the driving force behind all mental performance. And you kind of are what your goals are. Like, you can say whatever you want. Like, oh, like I'm gonna go have the biggest bench press for a 50-year-old guy on the planet, or I'm gonna go be all American, or we're gonna go win the national championship, or like, it's easy to say that. And it's easy to write that down on the goals card when the mental performance coach comes in and says, oh, what are your goals? Well, I'm going to write this down because then we know that's what the right answer is. But I can be around you every single day and determine what your goals are, right? So I think it just irritates me because technically it's just not correct. And I think that if we could get people to understand the spectrum of, like, motivation to extrinsic motivation to intrinsic motivation breeds discipline, is about long-term gratification at the sacrifice of short-term gratification. And when we get to the elite levels of anything, there's a very, very fine line between, like, excellence and madness. Obsession and excellence are very, very closely tied together. If you think about anybody that's dominated any field that you can name, they've sacrificed a lot,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, what do Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and Tiger Woods all have in common? They're dominant athletes in their sport for an extended period of time, for an era, right?
Yeah.
What else do they have in common? Well, they all have money problems and marriage problems and kid problems because they're obsessed with this one thing, right?
Yeah.
I think that, like, from a health and wellness standpoint, we would agree that that's not a good plan, right? But if we're really talking about being elite in any part of the world, like, we're sacrificing the other components of our life to go do this one thing because that's what it takes, right?
Yeah. And
And I don't know.
yeah. I just want to touch one thing, like, and if it doesn't fall in your conversation, feel free to deflect it. But that's the tough part, right? Is we deal with a lot of people that want to accomplish a lot of different things, whether it's professionally, whether it's physically, whether it's family, whether it's faith, and all these things. I feel like a lot of people have a tough time guiding their goals. Like, they'll go all in on a physical goal, but then they, to your point, like, you may shit the bed in your other areas of life. So for people who are trying to be balanced, that's the juggling act, right? Like, you get so many you only have so many pins to be juggling at once. What do you, if somebody comes to you and they say, I want to accomplish this physically, I want to accomplish this professionally, I want to accomplish this personally, what is your kind of messaging to them?
What are you willing to take off the table?
Would you
That's my
say,
first
what are you
question. What are you,
willing to take?
yeah, what are you willing to take off the table? Like, what are you willing to trade for this? Right? And we can break it down. One of the things that I used to do with college baseball players is give them an Excel sheet that had 48 rows on it. That's every 30 minutes of 24 hours. All right, make your plan. Like, what do you have to do? Time Management 101 says we spend our time in 3 different areas. That's vocation, family, and self. Vocation is planned for you, right? That's where you spend the quantity of your time. The rest of it is quality of your time. You're going to put at least 8 hours for the sleep cycle. Like, I've never been an 8 hour sleeper. I've always been like a 6 hour sleeper, but you still have to block off 8 because you're going to have to do some sort of shower and some sort of get dressed and some sort of like on both ends of this sleep. So 24 minus 8 is what, 16? No, I went to college 3 times, but I failed math, everyone, but I think it's 16. So 16 is the rest of them. And it's like, you got 16 hours in a day. Prioritize. If these are the 3 things that you want to be like really, really good at, then everything else is going to get dropped. Are you willing to do that? And are you willing to do that over the long haul? Because you don't get to the elite level overnight, right? It's like if you came into my office and said, man, I want to lose 100 pounds, right? It's like, okay, do you have a year and a half to do that? No, I want to do it faster than that. Like, wait a minute, did you gain 100 pounds that fast? You don't gain 100 pounds overnight. You're not going to lose it overnight, right?
Yeah.
This is the like the straws that are accumulating on the camel's back. Like, is it going to make it stronger or is it going to break it? And so the example that I guess I use more often is number one, prioritize your efforts. What are you willing to leave off the table so that you can do these 3 things, right? And I think 3 is a pretty reasonable for like a highly disciplined, long-term gratification situation. 3 is doable, but
So
it's hard.
3 goals, and it could be in 3 different areas, you're basically saying.
Yeah, but that's really hard, man. Like, you're not doing
Yeah.
anything else,
Yeah.
right?
Cool.
Like, what? Like, you're cutting off your like, where are you gonna fit in this friends and family time? Because you're gonna have to maintain some relationships. So unless you have friends and family that are doing the same things that you are, then something has to give, right? But you're gonna spend a lot of time away.
And I feel like with the goals too, when especially you understand this from college athletics, I understand it from college athletics, like having an annual plan, like we put an annual plan together for Warfighter. So everybody on the team can look at what time of year we're in, and that's the main goal. So I feel like you could probably do that, and correct me if I'm wrong, from a goals perspective too. Like, hey, I like hunting, so I want to kill a big buck this year. Maybe that obviously that goal is going to cut back into time that I don't have. So maybe, yeah, in when it's off season, it's not hunting season. That's obviously not part of my time. But then once I
Mm-hmm.
get to that time, then you can dial something else back, just like you would with strength and conditioning. Hey, in this point of the year, I'm focusing on strength, but I'm not neglecting conditioning. So I feel like you can do that with your goals. Like, all right, now we're focusing more on conditioning. We're still trying to maintain strength. Well, it could be the same for goals. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that you just outlined. That's goals. Those are all goals, right? That set your motivation. That's your mindset is based on your goals. And so there's a couple different ways to look at it, I guess. But the example that I use at work all the time that seems to resonate with the guys the most is everybody understands the back burner idea, right? Like, you put that on the back burner. It's still important, but it's on the back burner. All right, cool. So most stoves have 4 burners, unless like you live in this Gucci world where you have a fancy stove that has 6, but
Yeah.
regular people like us just have 4, right? And so like that means there's 2 in the front and 2 in the back. And so, all right, now we're just prioritizing. Like, I know that these are my 4 priorities. Which 2 are on the front? Which 2 are getting moved to the back? Oh, situation changes in the short term. How do I rearrange these
I
goals on
like
these
that.
burners to meet this need? But like, if I can't tell you what those 4 are, then I'm just waking up every morning and making it up, like we were talking about before. But if you lay out this yearly plan, and you're going to have an effective goal strategy, which means like you've got a bunch of short-term goals that are leading to this long-term goal, then now it's just a matter of managing your priorities. But still, like, you got 4 things that you're burning on. That means that the 5th one doesn't exist,
Yeah.
right? It's like how many times did you tell a college athlete, like, you're going to have to sacrifice partying with your friends on Friday night? Well, that's my social time. Like, that's part of my wellness is like, I need to have relationships outside of this sport. Not if you're going to be good at it, you don't,
Yeah.
right? Like, not if you're going to be good at it, you don't. And so, like, that's the sacrifice part. It's like, what am I giving up in exchange for this? It's no different than like if you go to the store to buy a white monster, you're going to give
Mhm.
up $2.50. Like, there's a cost for,
That's a non-negotiable though.
I
That
know,
250, spending that every day.
done, done, right? But like, because why? Because that's what you're into. And that's a fair trade for you. Like, you don't, that's discipline. It's non negotiable. That's just what we do. We don't even think about it like that. We don't even think of it as a cost. We think of it as an investment, right? And so when we think about it like that, like, it's like the old train up for like advanced selection stuff. It's like, man, you're investing in yourself, investing in yourself, investing in yourself for so long. That's your training program so that when you go to go do the thing, like, you're just at the club making it rain, bro. Like, you can spend all this money that you saved. Like,
Mhm.
you're going to come home smoked, depleted. There's a recovery part that we've already planned out when you get back. But like, in the meantime, we're like investing in the account so that
Mhm.
when it's go time, we don't have to worry about saving money. We can just make it rain. We'll recover it on the backside. But in the meantime, to do that, like, if you're going to go prepare yourself to run a marathon or like an ultra marathon, which a lot of guys in the world that we live in like to go do, like, if you're going to train for an ultra marathon, you're running for 5 hours on a Saturday.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
what are your wife and kids doing for that 5 hours while you're out just running
Yeah.
just so that you can go
Well, you're
run
gonna
a
have to
100 mile?
sacrifice. It's either sacrifice getting up early and you're sacrificing sleep, or you're gonna wake up at your normal time, then you're sacrificing time for your family. So
Right, but you
it's
can't
a
sacrifice sleep because you just ran for 5 hours and you need to recover. So like, you're something is coming out of the
correct.
equation, and like, where's the value on that? Right? Like, I have this value, I have this thing that I want. All right, what am I willing to give up for it? And that give up is like, it's not just time, but it's relationship, it's social, emotional, physical, right? And is if we're going to answer your, like, again, to get back to the question, like, how do you advise guys do this? It's like, all right, what are your priorities? And how well do these priorities fit into your life? Is this something that is just kind of a shiny object that you just kind of want right now? Or is
Mhm.
this something that you're willing to be like dedicated to? And then now we're talking about commitment, and commitment only really works in this sense if it's intrinsic. It's
Mhm.
coming from you.
Yeah.
Like, we could do it extrinsically, but like, we have to have some authority over people that can like actually dictate their life. Like, when I was coaching college baseball, I would run your life from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. because if you didn't do it, I could just find somebody else,
Yeah,
right?
of
Like,
course.
I had that option to do it. Like, I could say like, hey, from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., you're with Jimmy in the weight room doing whatever he says. And if I hear anything other than you're doing exactly what he says, like, I can find another kid that wants to play here. That's extrinsically motivated. Now, hopefully we do it better than that so that they start to internalize the value of a 6 a.m. workout,
Mhm.
right? Like, there's a better way to do that, but like, we could do it extrinsically. But if we're really going to breed disciplined character into people that want to be high performers, then we have to help them decide what they're willing to trade.
Yeah, it's cutting the fat off your day, because
Yeah.
if you're
And like, what's your definition of fat?
like things that don't matter. Well, depends on who it matters. It depends on the person, how it matters to them. But like spending an hour on social media, just flipping through social media when you could be doing meal prepping or planning out your week, that could be looked at as fat, especially if you said those goals that are on the front burner are the most important things. Then social media, anything else that's fat gets cut out. Because like you said, 8 of your hours are already documented for. And if you have a job, which most people have a job, that's another at least 8 hours and sometimes longer. So now that's 16 hours of your day. Yeah. What if you only got 8 more hours? So
Right. So what are you willing to
where,
cut?
yeah.
Right.
And
And that's
if,
what it comes down to, because that's the part that, like, what you said is like, well, I suppose it depends on who you are and what the person you're. That's the part that I get excited about with the mental performance more than I ever found with the strength and conditioning. Right. That's why I kind of went this way instead of went the way that you did, is because that part of it is the part that I'm really interested in for whatever reason. But like, I've had some crazy conversations with people about this. crazy conversations about like what's important to them and why it's important to them. And it's like, all right, like I'm not here to judge you, do your thing. But if you want to do those things, like what are you willing to trade? I'm not willing to trade anything. Well, that's why you're struggling. That's why you're average and everything, because you don't have your priorities set well enough to get like you're functioning at max capacity with these 7 goals,
Hmm.
right? Like you've got too many goals. And so you're at max capacity. This is your you're at your highest performance level right now. If you want to improve your performance in like 3 of these 7, then we have to reduce 4 of them because there's only so much time, effort, and energy in the day. And like it goes back to the triangle, right? I like triangle as a shape. If you talk like a concealed carry situation, there's a triangle between concealment and speed and comfort, right? Like if you can have high concealment, but you're going to sacrifice speed and a little bit of comfort. You can have high comfort, but you're going to sacrifice concealment, right? Like there's a triangle. And so like from a warfighter population, the triangle that we like to talk about is lethality, which means my ability to kill things and survive, right? We have readiness, which is a little bit more physical. Like I'm physically, and I guess we could argue from a human performance perspective, readiness means like mental, emotional, physical, social, ready to go do whatever the job is. And then we have longevity on the other corner of this triangle. Like I can do this job for a long time. Well, we can't have all 3 at the same time, right? Like you don't like every strength coach I've ever known would agree that in a college sports situation, like there's phases to the season,
Hmm.
right? Like the year program is based around the competitive season. And
Correct.
we, at some point, we're dealing mostly with longevity, which is probably postseason
Hmm.
recovery. And then we get ready preseason, right? So that we can be lethal during the season, right? And like that's the parallel. And so it's the same concept, man. It's like, what do you need to be right now? Like, how are you going to arrange the pots on your stove so that like what's on the back burner, what's on the front burner? It depends on where you're at, right? It's like the hunting example. In February, if your goal is to kill a big buck in November, or you're probably not spending a whole lot of time in February doing anything
Yeah.
regarding that goal. But
Correct.
it's on the stove
On the
because you're
stove.
planning because by the time June and July come around, like you better be out scouting. You better be out figuring out like where these bucks live, where they're
Yeah.
moving, where they're not. And is
Yeah.
that occupying a lot of your time? No, it's still a back burner goal, but like you're prepping the conditions to move it to the front as the year starts to come up, right? It's like it's the same kind of process, right? It's like, man, I feel really good. I should be able to do all these things. Like, no, we still have to condition this new injury, like this rehab. We still have to condition these parts, and there's a process to it, so that like when it's time to go live, it's ready to go live. And from your mental standpoint, it works the same way. Like if you don't condition the foundation, then you can't really like sharpen the edge when it needs to be sharp.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
It's
I
about
like
priority.
that. Yeah. And I think I never thought about it like that until this conversation, but I think that'll help a lot of people of like understanding not only looking at your day, but looking at your year because your goals, you could move the things around the burners. What's on the front burner in July may not be the same that's on the front burner in December. So I think that's a good way for people to manage goals because I think sometimes it just becomes so cumbersome. You're trying to accomplish, especially for high performers, which that's what our population is, high performers. You get almost just like paralysis because there's so many things you want to be good at, but there's only so much time. So you can still be working towards long-term goals, but they just may be on the back burner and just understanding, looking at your year, it's time to shift the food around on the burner. So I like that analogy because everybody falls into that because you're trying to accomplish so many things. It's like, what is really important right now may not be as important in 6 months from now. So
Right. Like,
yeah.
and that's exactly right. And so, like, if you want to avoid paralysis by analysis, then you got to reduce the number of decisions you have to make. And the best way to there's a couple different ways you can reduce the number of decisions you have to make. You can generalize some specifics, or you just take some things off the table
Yeah.
that
I
these
like
just
that.
aren't important to me anymore. And so, but if you give somebody too many decisions to make, you're going to get paralysis. But part of my job is to help them figure out ways that they can experience stressful situations because they need to
Hmm.
learn how to deal with stress. They need to be able to execute these skills that they're training, whether it's individual or collective, under stressful conditions because that's what they're preparing to go do.
Hmm.
One of the easiest ways to add stress to their training is to just increase the number of decisions they have to make at the same time.
Yeah. I think that's well put. Yeah. Makes
So
total sense.
yeah, clean up your table, right? It's like the old Jordan Peterson rule number one, clean your room. If your room's not clean, like how do you expect to do, and it's an analogy obviously of like kind of cleaning up your behaviors and cleaning up your life. But if you're not taking care of your internal state, then it doesn't matter how good your programming is. Doesn't matter how good your plan is, because your internal state's a mess. And so from a mental standpoint, like full circle back to the first question that I went on and on about was like clean up your mental state first. And the other thing about like that side of it is going back to like just clean up the motivation part is that motivation is a two-way street. And so there's a lot of people that believe that motivation precedes action. And that's true, but it's not conclusive, right? And there's a lot of people that believe action is the antecedent for motivation. That's also true, but it's not conclusive. And so think of it more of like a circle, right? It's like sometimes, yeah, you need to be motivated to go do the action, but sometimes just doing the action will increase your motivation to go do it
Yeah.
again.
Correct.
What we
Yeah.
know is like sitting around and making plans, not going to get you anywhere. And that's the beauty of a thing like Warfighter, or that's the beauty of a thing like CrossFit, or like whatever you believe is going to work, right? Like they've demonstrated the placebo effect in everything to include exercise. If you believe it's good for you, like you get better results. And so the thing that we have to do as professionals in the field, again, in my opinion, is that if we don't understand the context and don't understand their goals, then we could just be giving them a bad belief system. And if they believe it works and it's not working for them and it's not good for them, then we're doing them an incredible disservice. And we have to understand what their goals are. Otherwise, we can't have this conversation about like, hey, Jimmy, I've got these 3 goals. What should I do? Well, here's the plan to do all 3 of them. Cool. That's like 3 days worth of work in 8 hours.
Yeah.
Can't do that, right? Well, that's because Jimmy doesn't understand the goals. Okay, you do understand the goals, and so that now it's like, hey man, you got a lot of really good plans. Which one do you want to get rid of? I don't want to get rid of any of them. All right, cool. Then what are we talking about? Because you're already at max performance. No, I'm not. I know I could do better here. Yep. All right. What are you willing to cost? Because that's the definition of elite, is that you're different than everybody else. You do things differently than everybody else, right? It's also, ironically enough, the definition of poor. The lowest performers do it worse than everybody else, right? And the best ones do it better than everybody else. And so, yeah, man, like if you're going to get away from the mean, if you're going to get away from average, you're going to have to be different.
Yeah. Yeah. And another quote from a strength coach that I absolutely love is when you talk about like work life balance. Well, we're trying to balance two things that shouldn't weigh the same. I think it was Ryan Horn. Great quote. One of my favorite quotes. Like, we're talking about work life balance, but life and family shouldn't weigh the same as work. So I think that plays a role into people's thought process as well. Of like, yeah, if you're going to sacrifice something, well, just understand that it's going to sacrifice the family side and the life side as well. So to your point, like, how does that affect
Well,
you?
I think the best guys I've seen at do it, both in college sport and in special operations, is what in mental performance we would call a threshold technique. And so it's not about like which one of them weighs the most. It's about how well can I shift my gears,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that's where I came up. That's how I got like rule number 2, what's important now, what's important next,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when I got into the special operations thing, we used to go over to the combatives gym and get beat up every day. And on the whiteboard in the combatives gym, somebody wrote, you never rise to the occasion, you always fall to the level of your training,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as a naive but overeducated guy that was there to help them with their mentals, like I don't like that. Like, why aren't you training for the occasion? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's what we would do in college sports, was we just train for the occasion. I can put as much pressure on you as I want. I can get a junior college baseball team to work twice as hard as you guys are working right now just to win a junior college baseball game. Like nobody's life is on the line. If we completely screw this up, we're going to play again tomorrow. That's how I didn't really get into that. But as I've started to understand them better and understand the kind of the nature of their world, the guys that do it best is again this threshold technique. Is like, all right, we've got these things that we're carrying around: work-life balance, family, like
Mm-hmm.
dad, husband, soldier, athlete, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
firefighter, whatever profession we're in. And so when I cross this line, I'm going to put down 2 of those, and I can make this the most important thing in the world for the next 6 hours, right? And I can
Being
still shift
present.
things around on my burner. Like if if my wife calls me at work or if my kids call me at work or whatever, like I can step across that threshold and back, and I'm just like leaving my baggage at the thresholds. But when I
Yeah,
come
that
back
makes
through the threshold, I'm dropping this bag and then picking this one back up, right?
yeah,
And that
fully
ability,
present what you're doing.
yeah.
Yeah,
And the technique for that seems to work the best is this idea of the threshold. It's like talk to my like I help coach little kids baseball now, middle school baseball, and we talk about that all the time. It's like the game lives on two sides of the fence, right? Like we want to be on this side of the fence because the other side of the fence sucks. Like watching people play is so much worse than getting to play. Like what is it going to take to stay on this side of the fence? Well, what it takes is that when we step onto this side of the fence, like we leave all that other stuff out there, right? And then I'm going to make it so that like a fly ball landing in one of our gloves is the most important thing in the world. And I'm going to lose my mind when it doesn't happen. And then as soon as practice is over and we step back across the fence, like I don't care if you caught the fly ball, man, it doesn't change our life. But what does
amen.
change our life is the ability to make it the most important thing in the world and then the ability to let it go.
I like that.
Right. And so
Yeah.
that threshold technique starts to work really well. And the nice thing about being a professional, I think that's an important distinction as well. Is like, yeah, man, if you just have a job and you go to work, that's different than being a professional,
Mhm.
right? And if you're
Yeah.
like, if you're in a professional working in a professional organization, then like that's part of your life. It's who you are to an extent. It's not like your complete identity by any means, but like it's closely connected to your personal values. That's why you're there. And so like it makes it a little bit easier to do that because you have to drop less baggage and pick up less baggage because I'm like excited to wake up and go there and do this thing because it makes me better and it makes me better at everything else that I do. But like sometimes it's hard, man. Like sometimes it's really hard, especially for guys that work in high high consequence, low frequency environments. Like those consequences are real and they don't go away. And guys carry a lot of stuff with them. Some stuff that just can't be put down or is really, really hard to get. You know, you have to learn like you can't really put it down. You just have to learn how to carry it differently. And so like learning how to do that and training yourself to do that, it starts to like balance the whole thing, right? Now we're like back to the Karate Kid when Mr. Miyagi gives him the car and he's like, remember lesson about balance? Not just karate, whole life, you know? And it's like, yeah, probably right,
Yeah.
you know? Probably right. Like you're gonna fall into the lake a couple times for sure. But like that's how we learn how to do it. And so I like the idea of like these things don't weigh the same. I
Mhm.
think another way to look at it that kind of gets us to the same end state is not necessarily just shifting gears or like being present or being in the moment, but like really just setting our perspectives so that they're appropriate for the environment that we're in. And that includes time where like you have to take care of yourself. And taking care of yourself isn't always just like how much can I deadlift or how much can I bench press or did I get my work in today? Sometimes it is just about like, I'm going to spend 10 minutes doom scrolling because I just need to turn my squishy brain off for a while,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
and like share some obscene memes with my buddies because that's important
Which
too.
we we've done, which you and I have both done before.
That's important too, you know, like sometimes watching TV for 30 minutes isn't a time killer.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's an incredibly crucial part of the day. Um, you know, but just like anything else, just because little of it is good for you doesn't mean a lot of it is.
Awesome. Well, I know you got to be at a basketball game pretty soon, so we'll start wrapping up. But anything you
Right
want
on.
to, if you're open to it, I'll probably have you on again because I feel like this is a multiple part series that we can go down a bunch of rabbit holes, especially as we get more dialogue with people from Warfighter and stuff like that. Anything you want to leave the audience with before we send you off?
The feedback is king, right? Clear goals and feedback is kind of like the tagline that I like to use for mental performance. And so like my involvement in Warfighter is still new and like I put in the one video, it's like I'm trying really hard to be brave enough to suck at something new. And
I love that.
so I don't really I have some ideas of what my goals are. So if I was going to leave anything with the Warfighter community right now is like feedback. Like feedback is king. It's not about like taking it personally or anything like that. It's just like I'm just kind of shooting in the dark right now and just trying to throw out some like fundamentals, if you will. So anything that the people in the Warfighter organization want to know about, like I don't know that unless you drop a comment, and
Yeah.
then we can start building this up. But yeah, man, like I'll jump on here whenever you want. I enjoy this kind of stuff. Like I said, like I think you're probably the same way. It's like we're kind of nerds about this kind of stuff, and like I like to talk
Yeah.
about it. So
Yeah.
if anybody gets anything out of it, great. If not, just being quiet about it doesn't help either one of us,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Like if we just talk for an hour and a half or so, and everybody on Warfighter is like, "Well, this is the dumbest thing I ever heard. Why didn't they talk about this?" Like, say it out loud, bro, and we'll fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And lastly, where can people reach out to you?
But probably the best way is the at Caliber Development Group on Instagram. It's probably the most open access. I think it has an underscore, so it's like at Caliber underscore development underscore group on Instagram.
Cool.
Then drop me a line,
Awesome.
drop me a DM, whatever, and we'll go there.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you being on. I think the audience is going to get a ton for it. And obviously, like you said, please reach out if you want us to talk about something else. The only way we know is if you let us know. So appreciate it, Seth, and look
You bet,
forward to
Jay.
talking to you. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, man. Have a
Later.
good one.
You too.